On April 15th, 2025, at exactly 4:47 p.m. Eastern Time, a single email landed in the inbox of Nvidia's legal team. 7 words changed everything. H20 chips now require export licenses indefinitely. Within 24 hours, $5.5 billion vanished. Not from a hack, not from a market crash, from a policy change that took 7 seconds to write. But here's what makes this story truly extraordinary. This wasn't the end of the chip war between America and China. It was just the beginning of the strangest economic battle in modern history, where the rules changed every 3 months, where a $5 trillion company became a bargaining chip, and where a Chinese AI lab did something that shouldn't have been possible. This is the story of the technology that powers artificial intelligence, the 2 superpowers fighting to control it, and the semiconductor that became the most valuable weapon on Earth. To understand how we got here, you need to understand one critical fact. There's a single type of chip that runs the entire AI revolution. It's called a graphics processing unit, a GPU. And for practical purposes, one company makes the only ones that matter, Nvidia. Let me put this in perspective. When OpenAI trained ChatGPT, they used Nvidia chips. When Google built Gemini, Nvidia chips. When every major AI lab in the world runs their models, from San Francisco to Shenzhen, they're all running on the same thing, Nvidia's H100 and A100 chips. Jensen Huang, Nvidia's CEO, didn't just build a tech company, he built a monopoly on the future. By late 2024, Nvidia's market cap approached $5 trillion. For context, that's larger than the entire economy of the United Kingdom, a single company controlling the hardware that powers the AI race. But there was a problem. China was buying a lot. By 2023, roughly 25% of Nvidia's GPU sales were going to China. Chinese tech giants, Alibaba, Tencent, ByteDance, Baidu, were stockpiling these chips like digital gold. And the US government started asking uncomfortable questions. What if China uses these chips to build military AI, surveillance systems, autonomous weapons? What if America just handed China the keys to technological superiority? And so, in October 2022, the Biden administration made a decision that would reshape global technology. They banned the export of advanced AI chips to China. The chip war had begun. But here's where things got complicated. Nvidia, looking at billions in potential revenue disappearing overnight, did what any smart company would do. They engineered their way around the ban. They created the H800, a chip specifically designed for China. Same architecture as the H100, just slightly nerfed. Just enough less powerful to technically comply with US export controls, but still capable of training AI models. Then they created the H20, an even more stripped-down version. The US government said, no advanced chips. Nvidia said, define advanced. And for a while, it worked. Chinese companies got their chips. Nvidia kept making money. Everyone was happy. Except for one problem. In January 2025, a small Chinese AI lab called DeepSeek released something that shocked the entire tech industry. An AI model called R1 that performed as well as OpenAI's best systems. The cost to train it? They claimed $294,000. OpenAI's models? Over $100 million? But wait, it gets stranger. DeepSeek trained R1 using those downgraded H800 and H200 chips that were supposed to be inferior. The same chips America banned because they were too weak to threaten US AI dominance. Suddenly, Washington realized something terrifying. The export controls weren't working. They were just making Chinese engineers more efficient. And that's when everything changed. April 2025. President Trump, freshly into his second term and deep in a trade war with China, decided to escalate. Remember that email to Nvidia? The one about H20 licenses? Trump's Commerce Department basically said, we're banning everything. Even the chips we explicitly designed to be exportable. The reaction was swift and brutal. Nvidia's stock plummeted 7% in a single day. The company had to write down $5.5 billion in inventory. Chips they'd already manufactured, sitting in warehouses, now unsellable. $5 billion of silicon, gathering dust. Jensen Huang, who rarely speaks publicly about policy, called it inconsistent trade policy costing companies billions. But here's where the story takes a bizarre turn. 3 months later, July 2025, Trump reversed the ban. Why? Because Huang had negotiated a deal. Nvidia and AMD would give the US government 15% of all revenue from China, sales in exchange for export licenses. Think about that. The US government effectively became Nvidia's business partner in China, a 15% protection fee to sell chips to the second largest economy on Earth. It's extortion disguised as national security policy. But wait, there's more. In August 2025, just 1 month after Trump lifted the ban, China's government issued its own restriction. Beijing told Chinese companies, stop buying Nvidia's H20 chips. Security risk? The official reason? They claimed the chips could give the US backdoor access to Chinese data. More realistically, China was retaliating and sending a message, if you're going to weaponize semiconductors, two can play that game. Then in September, China's State Administration for Market Regulation announced it was investigating Nvidia for antitrust violations dating back to 2020. The timing was, let's call it strategic. By December 2025, a new bipartisan bill emerged in the US Senate, the SAFE Act. It proposed a 30-month halt on all advanced AI chip exports to China. No H200, no Blackwell, no exceptions. In less than 12 months, the policy changed 4 times. Ban, then partial allow, then ban again, then restricted allow, then full ban proposed. Nvidia, caught in the middle, lost billions. Chinese companies, unable to reliably access chips, accelerated plans to build their own. American lawmakers, trying to contain China's AI development, may have accidentally guaranteed it. Now here's what most people miss about this story. The chip war isn't really about chips. It's about control. Let me explain. There's a company in the Netherlands called ASML. You've probably never heard of them. They make the machines that make the chips. Specifically, they make something called EUV lithography machines, extreme ultraviolet light systems that can etch circuits smaller than a virus onto silicon wafers. These machines cost $200 million each. They're the size of a bus. They require 40 shipping containers to transport, and they're the only way to manufacture chips at the cutting edge, anything below 5 nanometers. ASML is the only company on Earth that can make them, and the US government convinced the Netherlands to ban their sale to China. This is the real choke point. Without these machines, China can't manufacture advanced chips domestically. They're stuck at older technology nodes, 7 nanometers, 14 nanometers, while the US, Taiwan, and South Korea race ahead to 3 nanometers and below. But China isn't giving up. They're pouring hundreds of billions into semiconductor R&D. They're trying to reverse engineer EUV technology, a process that could take a decade. They're exploring alternative approaches, like 3D chip stacking and hybrid bonding techniques. Some analysts believe these workarounds could let China produce chips that match 4 nanometer performance without EUV machines. Unproven, maybe inefficient, but possible. And here's the uncomfortable truth. DeepSeek proved that you don't need the absolute best chips to build world-class AI. You need the right algorithms, the right training methods, and enough compute. They built a model competitive with GPT-4 using inferior H800 chips. Imagine what they could do with another year of optimization. Meanwhile, US companies are caught in limbo. Nvidia sees billions in potential revenue blocked by its own government. AMD, same story. Intel, trying to rebuild its manufacturing in America, can't compete with TSMC's efficiency. In China, they're not slowing down. They're adapting. So where does this end? Here's the scenario that keeps Washington up at night. 5 years from now, China has domestic chips that are good enough. Maybe not as efficient as Nvidia's latest, maybe requiring twice the power, but sufficient to train AI models at scale. They've built their own ecosystem, independent of American technology, American supply chains, American control. And at that point, the chip export bans become irrelevant. America loses its leverage. The technological decoupling is complete. Alternatively, here's the scenario Silicon Valley fears. The US pushes restrictions so hard that allied countries, Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, start questioning whether they want to be part of this strategy. What if their chip industries lose access to the world's second largest market? What if China offers a better deal? The chip war could fracture the entire global technology alliance. Here's what's clear. Semiconductors have become the oil of the 21st century. Whoever controls advanced chip production controls AI. Whoever controls AI shapes the future, economically, militarily, technologically. Trump's whiplash trade policy, ban, allow, isn't just inconsistent. It's dangerous. Companies can't plan, allies can't trust, and adversaries get more determined. The DeepSeek moment proved something critical. Restrictions don't stop innovation. They redirect it. Every export control teaches Chinese engineers what they need to build themselves. Every ban accelerates their timeline for self-sufficiency. The chip war isn't over. It's escalating. The real question isn't who has the best technology today. It's who will control the technology that defines tomorrow.